if you think about it, if you run through a full interview process, 1 or 2 phone screens and 5 or 6 on-site interview rounds, chances are some of the one or more of those interviewers will look slightly disengaged or slightly less interested in the conversation. And the number one reason I hear from doing this, hey, then they are unqualified, unprofessional. I was, going all in the conversation, but they look like they couldn't care less about me. When in fact, from experience, I know this is very rarely the case. And actually, those people are a lot more qualified than you think. It's just that, it's in many cases, it's a well-known technique for them to speak less in order to ensure that you will talk more during the job interview. Or another technique would be to have a rather non-traditional approach to interview, to have a change in the rhythm of the conversation, to introduce that element of surprise. In other words, to act in a way that will get the candidate outside their comfort zone, and hopefully, make them reveal what they wouldn't be comfortable to revealing otherwise, right? So they want to get you off script, in simple terms. Now, what's the best approach with these things? Well, obviously, the wrong approach is you get stressed out, you get angry during the conversation, and then this will seriously interfere with your ability to perform during the interview. A much better approach for these types of scenarios is to simply play the game, play their game, because they are the ones calling the shots here. So the more likely you are to play their game, the better your chances to, in the case of a phone interview, to pass on to the next round, or in an on-site interview to get a higher recommendation. So how can you play the game here? Well, you should probably know the limits here. So what they're after most of the time is that they want to extract as much information as you, and there's no such thing as an ideal candidate for the role. So if you give them too much information, chances are you're also going to give them information that's not particularly to your advantage. So that's the extreme, right? So on the other hand, you must play the game and you must give answers to the question they ask you, and you must sound a little bit more convincing. So how can you strike the right balance here? Well, one approach would be, to give them the right answers and try to start a conversation. In other words, you give your best answers with quantifiers, concise, and everything else, and then you ask them a couple of questions. Try to see, hey, is this what you're looking for? Am I going into the right direction here? So basically, try to act a little bit in such a way that you hopefully try to bring them on as well in your approach to playing their game, right? So the more engaged you get them in the conversation, the more the conversation will turn your way. Another approach, if you feel like they simply are not cooperating in a job interview, you could also raise the tone of your voice to sound more engaging. If you raise your tone, or if you show a bit more alert or a bit more enthusiastic, that's another way you could, slightly increase your chances to bring them into the conversation as well. But nevertheless, you should act in the best possible way you can. So it's very hard for me to advise you how do you act in a job interview, because I don't know what's your strength. Probably, an example here, if you feel comfortable talking all day long, then probably it won't be any major challenge for you to give longer answers, right? Just keep those answers not too long, and don't give them too much information, but rather bring them as well in the conversation. Whereas if you are a technical person, so you don't like talking for long, then probably your best bet, your best act would be to give them concise answers full of quantifiers, and basically try to make sense at all times. And don't feel, don't feel bad if they are still pushing you to extract more information, because you're playing on your strengths, you're acting on your strength at that specific time. But if you don't act, if you become disengaged in the conversation, that's when you lose points. So that's why I'm saying you should play their game during a job interview. And unfortunately, many candidates get discouraged at these things, because if you have to do this for 1 hour, then it's something that might become slightly uncomfortable right? It might get you out of your comfort zone at one point. So that's why I'm saying at all time play the game and know your strengths, and play on your strengths and act in such a way that they will understand that you are basically doing everything you can to either pass on to the next level, either to get a job offer.